Go ahead and get a quick roll call. We got Mr. Pro Tem.
Present.
Okay, thank you, sir. You got Mr. Stamper.
Present.
Okay, Mr. Altman.
Present.
Okay, Ms. Flegler.
Present.
Ms. Anderson.
I'm here.
Okay, and got Mr. Lee here with me. And got the Ms. Parson. Ms. Jackson.
Ms. Parsons here.
Okay, Ms. Jackson. Okay, have we established our connection with Ms. Jackson?
Yes, let me give her a quick call.
Okay, go ahead and get her on. Ms. Dorsey.
Can you hear me?
Okay, there you go, Ms. Jackson. Okay,
And I'm here.
okay, good. All right, so we have everybody connected. I'm going to go ahead. Today is the Thursday, September 17th, 2020 at 6 p.m. This is the Andrews Town Council regular meeting. This meeting now is called to order. And if I can get Ms. Anderson to give us the invocation, please. There, Ms. Anderson?
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay.
Let's bow, please. Our most gracious Father God, we come before you at this time, calling upon your holy and righteous name. We ask that you guide lead us to do the town's business in a professional way and a caring and loving way. Bless, keep, strengthen, lead, and guide, and direct us. In Jesus Christ's holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mayor McClary,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Prince,
Present.
Councilmember Anderson,
Here.
Councilmember Lee,
Here.
Councilmember Altman,
Present.
Councilmember Stamper,
Present.
Councilmember Flagler.
Here.
Okay, so we have a quorum and we'll continue with the town's business. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. And these are the minutes from Thursday, August 20th, 2020. Have a motion? All right, we have a motion to approve the minutes, August 20, 2020. I have a second.
Second.
It's moving properly second that we accept the minutes as written. Any discussion? No discussion, ready for the vote.
Mayor McClary,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Prince,
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Lee,
Yes.
Councilmember Altman,
Yes.
Councilmember Stamper,
Yes.
Councilmember Flagler.
Yes.
Okay, the motion is carried. Down to item number 6, which are bank statements, and council, those are in your packet for your review. If there are any questions, we'll address those with Mrs. Jackson as we move down to item number 7 on the agenda, which is the financial report. Mrs. Jackson, please.
Good evening, everyone. You have in front of you your reports for the 2 months ended August 31st, 2020. And as you'll note, your expected percentage for these 2 months would be 16.67%. As always, the first page is just a summary, so we'll flip to the second page, which is your general fund revenue. The first line item there, 4001, real property tax. During the month of August, you collected another $28,953. For the year, that brings you to a total of $73,159.54. Another item to note, 4021, business licenses. You've collected $19,649.36. This is largely because of the delay with the pandemic in the collections. And also on line 4201, aid to subdivision, you collected $16,957.51 in the month of July. If there are no questions on that, we'll flip to page 6 and 7 for the police department.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
On page 4, administrative department, why is it at 32%?
You have some items there that you paid, like accounting services for one. There were a couple of invoices in there that actually were for the prior year. So that's skewed your budget there. And then the employee fidelity bond, 6324, you pay that for the whole year. And then public notices, number 6347. But basically that's over budget, but you pay all of that at the beginning of the year for
Okay,
notices.
thank you.
If no other questions, I'm just trying to hit some of the highlights of some things that were unusual or larger for the departments. In the police department, which starts on page 6, line number 6441, vehicle, gas, oil maintenance and repair, you'll see there that it is at 38.86%. During the month of August, you paid an invoice for $19,866 to South Strand Chrysler Jeep Dodge for some repairs on several of your police cars. So that took a significant chunk out of the budget for the year.
Mr. Mayor, is that preventive maintenance or, I mean, that's large sum of money.
Yes, all of these, the majority of these cars are in really bad shape. We're reviewing that now. Try to develop a plan, a strategy that's going to get us through the year. We have 2 of them that are basically going to be pulled out of service and have to be replaced as a part of the fleet management program that we have right now with Enterprise. But they're in tough shape. We have a couple of officers that's on the force right now that are looking at those. They have some experience in automotives, and so they've looked at those things. But most of these have been serviced. All of them have been serviced down at the dealership. And the closer they look, the more they're fine, and it's just all sorts of problems. And so we're going to have to take, so we put them in there. I think there's 2 more that's left in service right now, but 2 of them are going to have to be replaced. They're in pretty bad shape. Over.
Mr. Mayor, if I may right quick, in reference to the police vehicles, you say they're in bad shape and everything. I know we still have police officers still, I think, driving back and forth to their residence. Do we have a limit on how far they can drive our city vehicles outside the city to where they live?
Yes, there's a 30-mile radius. Yes, there's a 30-mile radius, which we have agreements with law enforcement and our fire department that's in between an individual's home and the workplace, and that's where it's parked. And then they drive it the rest of the way home in their POV. That is a part of an incentive, again, as a part of, incentive to draw officers. And that's pretty common, I think, at any law enforcement division. So yes, so we do have that now, but they have to be, there's some criteria to be afforded those privileges. And so not all are driving, but those that meet those requirements are certainly allowed to drive. And if they take care of them, obviously, and don't abuse that privilege, it's certainly a privilege.
Mr. Mayor, how do we determine how much money we put in a vehicle before we just take it out? I'm just worried if we keep doing this with vehicles and then we're having to go with a lease anyway, then we Kind of a bunch of money repairing.
Yeah, it is a constant, it's a moving target in terms of the strategy for this, because we don't have the money in a budget to replace all of them at once. So what you do is, again, is really enforce the maintenance piece of it. And then when it gets to the point, like as I just described with the two that we're going to absolutely replace, there's almost no more help. We'll continue to put money into this thing. It's not going to. So those have been identified.
I mean, $20,000, that's a lot of repairs.
Yeah, you had, these vehicles that were not being maintained. Yeah.
I mean, what does the car cost as a police car? 30 grand?
It varies. These, we have charges.
That's about
So,
average.
Yes, about average. So yeah,
Yes,
so
for those vehicles.
okay. And so, through the fleet management program, those are lease, which we were, for the last couple of years, we've been in this thing now, we are taking advantage of it with the public works. And now it's that time to get the police department involved in that process. But you can't just flip the entire fleet at once. It will have a significant impact on your budget.
Well, we didn't budget in $20,000 worth of repairs like this either. So I'm just saying, $20,000 could go a long way in a lease per year.
That's true. But it's a lot.
I'm just saying, what point does a dealership call and we say it's $7,000 repair this car? No, we're not going to repair it.
Well, that's through the advice of the mechanics, those guys, to see what is the lifespan of this vehicle from this point. And then you have to take a look at it and do a complete laydown and see what's in your budget and what you can afford through this year before you start turning over. These are unknowns after the budget. So you're going to have to make do and again, look at your expenditures. This may require to move some money around inside that department or something else, but we're not there yet. So it has not hurt their budget just yet. And we'll talk about some other things that's a requirement for this department that we may have to move money around, but we're not at that point yet. So it is a day-to-day assessment, working with the professionals and getting their advice. And before we move into, because $20,000 again is not going to get you a brand new car. So those things are spread across 10 cars in terms of the maintenance of those cars. And so it sounds, when you look at $20,000, it sounds a lot. It is. But again, when you look at how it's spread across 10 vehicles, it's not that much based on the conditions and the age of these vehicles.
So we're talking about 10 vehicles that's what I'm trying to understand.
Yes, 10 vehicles, not one, 10 vehicles.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And yeah, and again, it depends on what the conditions are. It may be higher for one than the other, but it's a total across the board on all of them. Went back to the dealership for a complete assessment, and then begin to fix those things. Not necessarily cosmetic, but those things that keep the vehicle running and in condition for the guy to do their jobs.
All right. Thank you,
I didn't understand your question yet, but it's 10 vehicles across the board.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thanks. Good questions. Any other question on? And while we're on that, the police department, there's still like tasers. As we discussed in the past, we don't want a service weapon to be the only option they have out to resolve issues, obviously. So we're looking at additional things in terms of tasers. We have some, but they need to be updated. And then other, of course, the body armor is going to be based on the individual. So we're having to replace some of those as we, again, continue to transition. So you'll see some of those costs come, but some of them have already been budgeted, some hasn't. But we'll bring that to your attention once we get to that point. Any other question on the police department? Okay, Jackson, continue, please. We can come back to if you all have a second thought. Continue, Ms. Jackson. Thanks.
Okay, if nothing else, let's flip to page 9 for the municipal court. Key item in there, line 6306. You made your quarterly payment to the magistrate for $3,000 during this month. And then let's flip over to page 13 and take a look at water and sewer. As you'll notice there, for your total for the water revenue, you're at $140,953.37, which puts you at 17% of your budget. And then your sewer revenue is at $150,990.87, which puts you at 18% of your budget. Overall, you're in good shape there with your budget. As far as your revenue, one key item on the next page, line 6330, permit fees, dues, and subscriptions. You did make a payment to DHEC for $12,649, which was for your annual water fee. So that is showing at 61.51%, but that's expected because, like I said, that is an annual thing that's paid. And then line 6332, the first quarterly payment was made to Suez for the tank maintenance. And then 6610 is at $25,452. That's at 31% of your budget, but that does include a grinder pump, which was about $4,000, which is part of the issue that's making the budget over in that line item. Now, you did purchase the vac truck during this month for $98,300. It doesn't show up on this report because it is an asset, and this is a report of your revenues and expenditures. Since it's an asset, it would be, a long term that would be depreciated, so it doesn't show up on this report. Are there any questions on anything that I didn't go over or anything that I did go over?
Yes, I got one question on our bank statements. I'm showing a large amount of money to GMK, and I'm not seeing where this is on our budget.
Okay, that is what is set up separately to Capital Projects Fund, where your $3 million is. How much was?
I get that.
How much was?
This one shows out the general fund.
Okay, then that one. That's another one that, because that is for the public safety complex, once again, you're an asset, so that's not an expenditure. So it's not showing up on your report. No, I believe that one is. That was going to be in line 7,000 on page 4.
Okay, so I guess my question is, and this might be a question for Moretta or the mayor. This $3 million, does it not have to be adopted? Does council not have to adopt this to a budget? Into the budget?
No, it will be a capital projects fund, so it's really going to be off by itself. And probably what is my understanding that you're going to reimburse the general fund for these bills that have been paid out of the general fund. And if I'm speaking incorrectly, Ms. Dorsey or Mayor, please correct me.
So you're saying that
You're correct, Ms. Jackson, because we discussed that before, that all of this funding would come from that capital fund, and that all expenditures that were already paid from the general fund would be reimbursed.
Yeah, I understand that, but council does not have to approve this money or deal with this money whatsoever, is what you're saying.
Like she just stated, no, because that is the capital projects. That's totally separate. That's not funding from our budget. That's funding from the 1% funding.
Okay.
So, and when this gets reimbursed, basically that $92,000 will come out of your general fund, where it's showing there and showing you being over budget there. And I didn't even catch that there, but that goes back to Ms. Anderson's question. That's one of the reasons there that the administration is showing as being over budget, because that's $92,000 there with no budget. But once it is, the checks written from the capital projects fund over to the general fund, that expenditure will come out of that fund and go over to that capital projects fund. And once that occurs, I'll start you a schedule to show you what's spent in total on that, in that fund.
All right, any other question on and the Public Works budget items? All right, just real quick there again. And it's not, I don't see it's reflected in here, but there's again, we're spending about $500,000 in public works at this point in time for all those things that consent order, manholes, as Ms. Jackson just mentioned, the purchase of the vac truck, which will be instrumental, actually critical to the repairs for these roads, Morgan and Beach, and other sewer operation, water and sewer operations. They also having to replace pumps in some of these I think 14 or 15 lift stations we have. Those come about $10,000 a pop, and that's on the cheap end. The ones we're replacing was once cost in the neighborhood of about $26,000. So these expenditures are large. That's just the nature of the beast when you own and operate the water and sewer system. But those things are being turned out now. They've reached their lifespan, and again, we've talked to Mr. Rivers and guys down there to make sure that we are managing these closely because we still have 3 quarters to go, and we don't want to go beyond, obviously spend ahead of us, get ahead of ourselves on our revenue or income. But those things are absolutely necessary now, and we will report out to DHEC here at the end of next week on the status of that. That's that quarterly report we owe to DHEC. But you'll see some large expenditures in that department as well. Okay, any questions? All right, moving right along. Ms. Jackson, anything else?
Not unless council has some other questions.
Okay, let's give him a second here. Any questions for Ms. Jackson? Okay, I'd like to recognize Mr. Carter that's on with us, town attorney, and we have Mrs. Amy Vargas that's on Zoom with us, and she's on here for a special purpose, which we'll get to shortly. Before we do that, I want to take this time now to give council members an opportunity to make an announcement or questions they may have, and we'll start with the pro tem.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, of course I have a few, always have something to say. I've got a few things that are concerning the citizens have called me about. I just spoke to you about one of them, and I attempted to call you a couple weeks ago about it, but we haven't had further discussion. There's obviously some sewer and trash being put into the ditch on South Magnolia. It's still a big problem. There's a camper that's on the property line, and I have some pictures of trash and sewer that's being dumped. The person has called me several times. They're at the point of calling DHEC. Also, we spoke about the vac truck. Is it here now?
No, it's not. It is getting all this upgraded. It should be here on the 28th, and that's when training will begin. I have a 5-day training program for the employees on that truck.
We had to pay for upgrades, or is that what you said?
No, that's all. No, that's all a part. We back up. So when the truck was purchased, or before we purchased the truck, we sent a team up there to look the truck over. And so we found some things that we weren't happy with. And so then as a part of that agreement, it sent that back to its through its system to get them all upgraded. And then get all of the town logos and those kind of things. But most importantly, to make sure it's functioning properly with all those things on there, because obviously, $93,000 is a ton of money to get something that's not going to work. So that's what's been going on for the last 30 days. Okay. And, it should be here on the 28th.
Okay. I'm hearing rumors of a trick or treat in town. Has anybody approached you about that?
Yes, I have got an email yesterday from the event coordinator on that. And my response to her, because I did not want to say no up front, but I asked her and her committee to go back and again, So we want to understand this is this event, which has been successful over the last couple of years, is ran primarily by our business owners and our citizens. And so I asked her to go back and with her committee and bring us a very detailed plan to show that if we can do this and if we can do this safely and without putting people in harm's way, then we will take a look at it. But so right now it's in the planning phase. Nothing has been approved. And so we're waiting to hear back from the committee.
I was just wondering, because if we do that, I had some things that I wanted to kind of initiate for Christmas, but I didn't want to plan on us having a Christmas parade if, you know, I'm not sure where we're at, but.
Yeah, none of that stuff is what we canceled were those town sponsored events, like the festival, which was should have executed I think a couple of weeks ago. But all the others, again, trying to not just just throw away the entire year, but playing this thing based on the conditions with this COVID. And so as the conditions change, we want to have a plan on the shelf that if we could possibly to some degree execute some of these events, it would be great for the community if we can do that safely, but we will not put people at unnecessary risk. So I'll say continue to plan for the Christmas event, and we'll make the call at the appropriate time. We'll, as a council, whether it's a good idea or not.
All right, I got two more things, and I'll try to be quick. One that I've had some citizens, and I have feelings about this too. This be a council or as a group decide to go back to having our council meetings in person, with the possibility of citizens commenting whether they wait outside or what. I don't know how everybody feels about that. I know we still need to social distance, but we did have a meeting one time, and with GMK and all that, we had 15 to 17 people in the room at that time. So I think that's something we need to consider. There's some citizens, I guess we've sparked some interest and questions with it, Facebook now. So that's been a request as well.
Yeah, and we can look at all that. One thing is going to be important, obviously, if we have a large enough space, and then because obviously any of our meetings is going to have to be accessible to the citizens. So nothing's off the board, and we can take a look at it. And again, if we feel it's safe and we can get folks in there, and we can move forward.
And I got to get some stuff off my chest. One, I think communication with all of us needs to be better. I'm still waiting on an email from back in June. I've made some phone calls over the last couple of weeks. I got no return to call as of now. I'll just leave it at that. But my big thing right now, and not just because I'm on the fire department, but I'm very discouraged that no part of administration, council, whatever, has contacted any fire member in this town to check on their mental or their emotional things after we watch a 3-year-old child die in a fire. I don't care if you do this every day or not, it still messes with your heart and messes with your mind. It's just disappointing that we're not taking care of our people and checking up on our people.
You came in broken. I didn't get all that. Can you say that again, please?
I said I'm very disappointed in the town of Andrews and the people representing it, that no one has contacted any personnel of the fire department that was on scene and to check on their mental or emotional state after watching a 3-year-old child die in a fire, inside that car. We've got to take care of our people. We've got to check up on our people.
Okay, well, and I don't want to get on here to try to defend any of that, because that is important, and that's certainly something that's concerning. But that was not brought to my attention. I would have called, but that to your point, that goes to all of our employees. We have people that have lost family members here in the last, and so it's the same thing, and that's for all of us in Short Care, and that is a thing that we do here religiously. We contact and we stay informed with those that we know. That is we always do that. We have a couple right now that are going through some hard times, so we have to make it known to us, and we'll take care of that. But we do care about all of our citizens. That's the same thing for all of the council members. You can do that as well. It's not just one department. We have a family, an employee right now. Mother is fighting for her life, and so we're constantly in contact with. One right now is experiencing about with potential cancer. So those things are happening, but we have to be brought to our attention, and we'll do that. But again, it's all of our responsibility. Not to get defensive, but that's something I'm really passionate about, and we don't want to leave anybody out, because it is a tough business all around. So, but we care about all of our citizens. So, okay, anything else?
No, sir, I'm good.
Okay, thank you. Let's go with Ms. Flegler.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, loud and clear.
All right. I have concerns. I know it's raining now, and I've been riding through the community, but one lady on the corner of Beach and Cherry wants to know about all the water that's in the ditches, that's accumulating in the ditches. And is there anything, that's going on now concerning drainage, concerning all of these ditches? As a matter of fact, I was just going by Piney Grove Church, which is on the corner of North Popular and West. And I noticed that the ditch behind the Dunmore Musical, whatever they call that studio, there I saw where you clean the ditch. That ditch is full of water, and all of that water is running down toward the apartments. And they want to know, what's the update on the drainage so far as the amount of water today. If you go around, you'll see a lot of water streaming down the road. And the same thing I have on South Cedar, where it comes up from where McKnight Funeral Home is at, and it runs down to where I have a house on the corner of Oakland and Cedar. And every time it rains, it washes the my foundation, I may as well say, from underneath my house, underneath my mobile home. I've jacked the house up many times, but as long as the rain is coming and the water is flowing from further up, it just keeps washing it out, and it causes me bukus of money to keep jacking it up. So I need to find out, is there anything that I can do, to kind of solve that problem where the water won't run underneath the house and wash it out of my foundation. And then another thing, I noticed that we have some street signs that are missing. One lady, she addressed about her street sign has been gone for a while. And who do we need to contact to get another street sign replaced? But those are the only two things that anyone said anything about.
Okay, all right, good. Street sign real quick. For some reason, this has been happening for years now, and I don't know who it is, but we say the kids, and it's, I don't know who it is, but they're just pulling the street signs down.
Okay.
And that's happening across the town. And so what's been happening now, again, through Public Works, they've collected those things now and getting with DOT, because I think the green signs are, as I'm told by one of the DOT guys, belong to the town, and the ones with the SC number on it belongs to the state. But we've collected those. Mr. Tommy had as much as they've been able to collect, and we'll devise a plan again to go back and put them back out in the area. But what we need from the citizens is if they see any of this going on, we have to report this, because I don't know if it's a part. I don't want to speculate, but I know they're being pulled down intentionally. This has happened. It's happening across the town. So that's where we are now. If we don't see them, we don't catch them, no one reported, we can't do anything about them, but continue to reinvest resource in it to get them back up. With respect to the flooding, again, this is something we've been talking about now for some time, and I understand the impact it have on the folks. Real quick, the study is done. We understand all of that you just laid out, Councilwoman Flegler, about the problems. Now the solution is going to be implemented, starting with creating a new outfall. As I briefed last month, there will be a new outfall created, which will start the construction on that in November. The plan is that, and how this thing will be designed, it's not going to solve all of the problems in the town, but about 118 acres of the area of water will then flow from the north side of town down south and on out to the Johnson Swamp outfall. We have a weekly update on this thing. They're going through the design phase of that right now. That's going to solve some of the problems. There's another effort ongoing right now with the Nature Conservancy organization, and so they have offered up and going and receiving funding right now to establish what we call rain barrels and rain gardens. And again, the idea behind that is those things will be decorative, placed throughout the town, and then in designated locations in the town, again, to have that runoff go into those areas, again, to keep their water out of folks' yard. Again, this is not the solution for all things. There's 3 more phases, I think 3 to 4 more phases that was identified during the study. And now we're going through the process seeking funding through the assistance of the county and the state and Congressman Rice's office to get funding for this. But it's a long-term effort. We're talking, I think, at the end of this thing, once we get this rebuilt, it's going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $18 to $20 million. And these are dollars that we're trying to get outside of the town. That's not going to come out of general funding. That's coming from state and potentially some federal funding. But this next one, I think it's in the neighborhood of about $4 million to create this new outfall. Again, that would take water south and on outside of the town. It's not going to solve the immediate problem right now. The other thing that's happening right now, and again, Councilman Lee is working with the state guys and county to clean some of the ditches. Again, those are the maintenance part of this thing here is to help relieve some of these this flooding, this collection of water. We've been successful at it over the last year or so, but then things have regrown, and we're going to have to do this, continue to do that piece. So it's a multiple pronged attack to try to address this issue, but it's certainly a long-term effort.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, Ms. Anderson.
Yes, sir. I brought both, I think, this issue up with you before, but some community wanted to know, when did we approve the plans for our new multi-purpose building?
Yeah, that date hasn't changed. You and I spoke the other day. That hasn't changed.
Yeah,
yes.
Right. I need to let you say it so with people who out there know exactly when it was approved. It was in October.
Yes.
October 2019.
2019. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and also why council does not vote on the multi-purpose building, the budgeting on that. That question came up too.
Yeah, as Ms. Dorsey explained a little earlier on another question, these are funding coming down through the 1 cent sales tax. This is not out of the town's general fund, any money that we collect. So this is coming down through Department of Commerce, down through the county, and those invoices are addressed and then paying those off. So these are not Andrew's dollars. These are monies collected over the last 5 years through the 2014 capital project sales tax. And that's why it's not that's not a voting requirement for the town.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so then we have Mr. Stamper.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, just a couple quick questions. I was wondering, driving through town, I know I've had a lot of complaints about it. We make a water repair, whether it be in Highway 41 or a side street. Is the problem with us not going back with asphalt? Is it responsibility falling on the town, or is it DOT not getting to the job? Or are we not reporting it? I know it's a lot of repairs being made, and they fill it with crush and run, and it's healed up, and things like that. What's the proper process that we have to go through to make sure that we come back with something such as asphalt or hot patch to make sure these roads aren't so beat up? Or that's my first question.
Okay, let me address that now. Yeah, so it is the town's responsibility. Any cutting, we have to get authority or permission through the state DOT, but it is the town's requirement to restore that road back to its condition. Obviously, the challenge is you talking about paving those businesses. That's very expensive, but we do have those hot patches now. And again, Mr. Rivers, the director for the department now, are starting to address those things. They went out last week to resurface some of them, and so that process is beginning. But yeah, it has been a problem, and technology now, they've got some hot patch stuff in a bag that will seal in 5 minutes. And I think that has a longer lifespan than some of the other efforts, other methods we've used. So that's where we're going to now. But it is our responsibility. And I think there's about $17,000, I believe we have budgeted for that purpose, but it's not nearly enough, especially when we start to repair Beach and Morgan. We're going to have to look at some other sources. But that's one of those things that we did not anticipate when during this budget cycle. But it's on us. Yes, sir.
Okay, I didn't know. I was unsure if we weren't notifying DOT or if we were falling short of our responsibilities. But if it's town's responsibility, I think we need to try to do what we can to improve some of these repairs. I was going to ask you about I know you and I talked briefly the other day in a business downtown, just to see if you had any update on the temporary building that you and I talked about.
We had to move this last week. We had to move away from the contract that we had established with a company out of North Carolina. They've had this thing for 2 months and have not moved on it. So we're in the process now of pulling back our deposit from those guys and go with another company. And we will be talking to, I think you gave up a couple names from cement companies locally. And so we were reaching out to those guys, but it's once you get it all together, it's maybe a 5-day process, but we were just having problems with this particular contractor. We're going to move away from them.
Okay, thanks, sir.
Okay.
Also, too, I noticed that everybody knows the fire station's been torn down. What about? I noticed that the pad back there, the old existing cement pad, is that going to be taken up here shortly, or is that part of the demo, or what's the reason for leaving that?
Yeah, that's part of the demo. Right now, they're going through, before they start the groundwork, they have to get the permits approved through DHEC. That has been beyond reasonable time. So we talk with the guys, weekly to get an update. But that has been an extremely slow process of getting the permit through DHEC. But all that will go away. The plan, just like we did with the steel, is to get that recycled and try to recoup some funding through that. That will soon become crush and run. And once they start that process. But that's been the holdup here for the last, since the demo of the building. It's just permanent. Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. And my last question is basically talking about our water. I think we've had some brief discussions previously about only being able to record a certain amount of water that we generate, we make and treat and sell. I mean, what is the percentage we're able to account for? Do we have a number on that as to what we're accounting for versus what we can account for?
Now, the last water loss report, those numbers went from, when we started this thing, from 64 down to below 40% loss. And a lot of things play into that. And it's all, at this point now, it's almost discovery learning in terms of where they are. So the guys are out as we go about servicing the manholes. We're finding some leaks out there, and those things are being repaired. But a lot of contributing factor to that. It's not just one thing at this point in time. But right now we're below 30%. The standard, I think, is 10, probably 10, somewhere between 10 and 15% is expected to be lost that you can't account for. Rather, now I will tell you this is the other thing. I'm glad you brought that up. We just found a company that's doing some road work inside of the Andrews outside area. Is tapping into our hydrants. And I asked the citizen, if you see this going on, they must have a permit from the town and one of the town's meters. We have 170 hydrants throughout the town and inside and outside the city. Yeah, be vigilant. Just question anybody that's doing that, because this has been going on for long before we got here, and it's still happening. And and some of these guys are working at night. And so this last week is when these guys were discovered, basically stealing water from the town. And a lot of that, and is a part of the problem, where when we start doing our calculation, you'll see the rise in your water loss because you don't have the revenue to account for it. And that's kind of how it balances out. So we just ask that anybody see anyone out there that's not a town vehicle or our fire department that's hooked up to a water hydrant, please report that to the APD.
Okay, thank you, sir. For clarification. I just want to remind everybody, the last part I have is just pretty much a statement, remind everybody, I think it was in our packet too, on the back, of the fire chief's report, that next month in October is Fire Prevention Week. So it's going to pose a little bit of a challenge with the COVID and everything, trying to reach out to the children at daycares and things like that. So you'll probably be seeing us out and about next month doing some fire prevention efforts to minimize, fires and loss of life here in town and the surrounding areas. So that's all I got. Thank you, sir.
Hey, yes, and on that point, and I think it touched on what the pro temp said earlier too, in terms of recognizing the firefighters and our first responders. As we know, we just Patriots Day was 9/11. We generally would have a program to recognize and have a remembrance program, but we did not. But I ask all that we come in contact or have an opportunity to thank our firefighters and our police officers for their service to the town. Again, we all are reminded by what happened in 9/11, 2001, and then, what that required of our first responders. And so we owe them at a minimum, thank you for their services. So I ask that we all do that, take an opportunity to do that. Okay. And yeah, Mr. Altman.
Yes, sir. Just two quick things. On the corner of Beach and MLK, where Terry Blakely's residence. I spoke to you the other day about the issues having when it heavy rains, they're not able to use the restrooms inside their house. In fact, he just texted me that problem's still going on after the rain today. He's been trying to locate that pipe that comes from his house out to the street to tie into the sewer. Is there any way that Mr. Rivers or someone could assist him in trying to find that so they can get that washout put in?
Yes, I spoke with him a couple of days ago, and we talked about the process. Yes, what they will do starting tomorrow, they can go and, again, our employees can't go onto personal property, but we can start the probing around that L shape of his house, as I explained to Mr. Blakely, and try to locate it that way. But probably the fastest way, the best way to do it is to get his plumber to work from his house. So he should have a clean out that's located near his house. It's again an indicator where his line could be, and then trace that on out. But it's going to be a two-pronged effort to try to find this thing, and that's just the nature of the beast. We did not put in clean outs in all of these, in the homes over the years. But we're on that. Mr. Rivers have that, and it should be out there tomorrow. I know he was working this week, and I wasn't sure whether he was going to be available today or tomorrow. But we will have someone link up with him tomorrow and start to search for that line.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And the second thing is the issue that's been going on for a while, and I still get numerous phone calls on it. Is there any way we can go ahead and get some type of policy for these record rotations so we can get that issue solved?
It is. I think it depends on who we speak to, whether it's an issue. There is a rotation, and that's happening. I spoke with the captain just the other day, and that's happening. There is, I've looked at this thing, and there's no. I think one of the options we talked about is turning this thing over, because our recs are not that high in number. We can turn this thing over to the county and let them manage because that's where it all comes from anyway. Our call list is with the county dispatch. And so that's how those things rotate through in terms of who's next up. I am waiting for some evidence to show where it's an unfair process, but I've spoken with the sheriff, I've spoken with the dispatch supervisor down there, and to make sure that there is no unfair treatment, if you will, when it comes down to calling out records, and make sure that rotation is done fairly. And I'll look at it again, but the policy is simple. If it's 5 records, the next man or next woman is up. That's how it rolls, and that has been maintained. Again, these are this list is up there with the county, so I'll see if there's anything going on that we could possibly fix. But that's the policy in a nutshell.
Yes, sir. I understand that. You know, I was in law enforcement for 19 years and I've dealt
Mhm.
with them for 19 years, and you're never gonna please everyone.
Right.
But as long as we have something that every person is equal and can go by, then I think we'll be fine.
Yeah, I agree with you. And that's, yeah, again, that's just, I think you keep it simple. Who's up next? And I don't know how county, I'll have to go down to see how they are tracking who's called for Andrews. And again, you still have to balance that with if someone requests a record, then that knocks your list right on out.
That's correct.
Yeah. So it's a balance that we don't have visibility of it. It's a part of the dispatch management. But we'll look at and see if we can get some more efficiency out of it.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Will do. Thank you. And Councilman Lee? No questions? Okay. Any alibis? I know anything from Mr. Carlin?
Mayor, I need to remind people about Helping Hand in Andrews.
Okay, go ahead.
We are in need of food for people here in Andrews. Our meats are gone. We don't have any meat for people, and they're coming in asking for meat. Our shelves are basically empty. So we need a lot of help at Helping Hand, helping the community, because we are feeding a lot of people. They're coming in there for food and we don't have it. So we need some help with that.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Yeah, they have been wonderful for our community, and there's some other things we need to really take a look at to assist what they're doing here. And again, as Ms. Anderson said, we asked all of our citizens, if you have canned goods or any kind of dry food or clothing that we can donate to Helping Hand so they can help some of our less fortunate citizens in town here, that would be very helpful. And Helping Hands is located.
We're not accepting clothing at this time.
Okay, and that's the corner of Main Street and Rosemary or Morgan? I mean, Magnolia. Do you recall, Ms. Anderson?
I sure don't.
Rosemary.
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 Okay. So the corner of Rosemary and Main is where Helping Hands in the old Hemingway Ford Motor Company building. And so please let's help them out, because not only they provide additional service, they provide workforce development, boot camp for all kinds of things that help our citizens and prepare them for the workforce. So it's a lot of goodness comes out of the Helping Hands, and so let's help Helping Hands. Okay, help our folks. Thank you, Mr. Carter. Nothing. Okay, I know we spoke today on a couple of things we need to get a legal opinion on, and so we'll follow up with you tomorrow to see where we are with that. Okay. But appreciate the work you've been doing so far, and just keep your phone on, because we've got a couple more questions for you. I can't hear you, so you're on mute.
Said Councilman Lee, give me a call also. Yes, sir.
Okay, that does it for our well, a couple things from my desk here. Again, we still have our COVID-19 ordinance in terms of our mask ordinance is still in effect. That's been extended. So please, and again, I appreciate the business owners and our citizens for staying in compliance with that. And I believe that this has been certainly a contributing factor to these numbers decreasing. We know now that next week our kids will be going back into the school for 2 days. And again, we ask for your prayers out there for our educators and our kids going back in, because we're just not sure how this is going to impact across the board. But right now, those numbers are down, and that is given our state level leadership and our educators the confidence that it's okay to go back in. We will see. We just pray that everyone is safe when they going back to school. But that mask ordinance is still in effect. Don't need to warn you about the weather conditions on this tropical storm or tropical depression, Sally. We all know it. We just experienced it, and when we get this amount of water, it is going to have an impact on an already aged and dilapidated system. And so So we'll continue to try to work through this thing as best we can. The Census 2020. We're down to 13 days to get this completed. Right now, it's not going to be an extension for the census survey. So we can't put enough emphasis on the importance of doing this, because these funds come from the federal level that impacts almost anything we try to do, whether it's these storm drain systems. Again, grants come down, these monies go to that. It goes to education programs for our kids, all kinds of stuff. So it's out there. It's a 5-minute or less process to complete the census report. Right now, Andrews is at about 50% complete. And so we asked that our citizen, just take that time, call in, which is probably, you can get the assistance. Again, that's about 5 minutes, or we can get online and do it in about the same amount of time. Georgetown the county is averaging less than 50% as well. And obviously our state is not in the top as we look at the across the country. But we can't put enough emphasis on the importance of filling these things out. So please encourage those who haven't, to go ahead and fill this out. We talked about the vac truck that'll be in, and we'll see some improvements and some efficiencies once we get that thing in. And I think we spent enough time today on the storm drain study and those things that are happening there. Just a long process. Okay, that kind of concludes my report. But now we'll move to a special recognition that we want to recognize one of our employees who happens to be one of our police officers. As we all know, at any given moment, we can, check out the news and there's something that is negative going on that involves law enforcement. Today, we have an opportunity to recognize an officer that is on the opposite end of that ugly story, if you will. So we'll pause here for a second and bring him in and recognize him for his bravery and his dedication to this tough profession, to the point where this young officer who's been on the force a little over a year, he was came to the town in June of 19, and in March of 2020 he completed the academy to become a full-fledged officer. 5 months later, this officer found himself a part of a joint operation to apprehend a suspect who had just murdered 2 people. I think we're all very aware of what occurred down on Indian Hut Road, where we lost 2 of our citizens to a senseless gun violence. And so officer, and you can see those guys. And this officer I'm speaking of, not only was he a part of that operation that evening, but earlier that morning, he was the only officer on the scene of a call of a citizen that was unresponsive. And as I observed both his actions on the body cam, both in the incident I was telling you about earlier, and then the actions he took to save the life of this citizen who again was not unresponsive, and through again his dedication, his commitment to protecting and serving the people, through his action alone, he was able to revive this young lady before the EMS arrived, through the use of Narcan and that kind of business, and just keeping this person alive. And so then again, to have 2 just major events that occurred in this young officer's life in less than 12 hours on a 12-hour shift, it tells us, this reminds us this is tough business, and we do have some great officers out there that are doing great things, and so we can't thank him enough for what he's done and has been doing. He's always been an outstanding person and an officer, very respectful, and I think respected throughout the community. And we wanted to take this opportunity today to recognize Officer Romero Vargas for his bravery and again commitment to protecting and serving. And if you had the opportunity I had to take a look at that body cam footage to see one of our very own on the front line, literally on the front line, along with county officers and others there, again, to apprehend this suspect, is something that just touches at the core of your soul. And that takes a lot, because you don't know, as you look at this scene, again, you don't see the suspect, and he could be anywhere. And at that time, he could, take the life of the officers, trying to find him. But this thing went down. No shots fired. Got him to surrender, and they took him into custody. And we know the rest of the story. But Officer Vargas was there on, I think it's the 24th of August, 2020, as a part of that combined force that brought this young man in. And again, saving the life of a citizen is something that you just can't pay them for that. And so it's important for us to take the opportunity again, as we analyze and assess those that are not doing what they're supposed to do. It's also equally important that we recognize those that are. And we have his wife, Miss Amy, is online too for this special occasion to recognize her husband. And again, he, for all the hard work he's doing, he's still getting more responsibility. He recently has been named as our new investigator. So the more, the more he do, the more we put on him. And so he's our new investigator, and we're working now to get him into Quantico to do some training along with our FBI agents, those folks up there, for some specialized training. So again, we want to recognize again now the investigator Romero Vargas again, and we got a few things here. I don't know if you can see those on my table, and we have him here present, and along with one of his senior advisor, Captain Vic. And bear with me for a second. Come on in, please. He's actually on duty right now, so we can't keep him too long. What I was just telling our citizen out here and a council member, just highlighting what took place this past month that you were part of. And that doesn't happen every day. And the outcome of those things are not always what you experience in terms of bringing in a suspect or being a part of that operation with no incident and no one gotten hurt. Saving the life of a citizen, that doesn't happen every day, and that should not go unnoticed. And we wanted to show our appreciation for what you do here for Andrews, for our citizen, and for this department. So a couple of things for you. We have here a plaque that we're going to present to Investigator Vargas, and it reads, excellent. It's an excellent award. It's in recognition of your bravery and courage under extreme circumstances while serving the citizens of Andrews and Georgetown County. We commend both your life-saving efforts and the vital role you played bringing justice in a joint law enforcement operation on August 24, 2020. This award is presented to Romero Vargas. Your commitment and dedication reflects greatly on you, your family, and the department in the town of Andrews. And this is September 17, 2020. Mayor and the town of Andrews Council presents this to you, and thank you for the dedication and service. Okay, we got a couple of things for him. We got some personalized cuff links, not cuffs, but cuff links. And we'll go to him, and then we got, and again, this is from Unique Floral Gift Shop here out of Andrews off 218, I think West Main Street. And sir, we have this for you, fruit basket. Yeah, you have to come and help me carry on this thing. Now, I debated with the staff whether we give officers flowers or not. I don't think you would want these, but I did some research and found that someone special in his life just celebrated a birthday. So I don't think he's going to keep these. They'll probably go to Miss Amy. He said that's correct. So again, thank you so much, and we appreciate Miss Amy and your family for sharing you with us again to take care of our citizens. So thank you very much. Okay. All right, and we won't put him on the spot for any words, but again, we want to show our appreciation for our officers here for the fine work. All right.
Hey, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir. Got a comment?
Yeah, next time he might want a box of donuts. He can use those quicker.
They've moved away from the donuts. Anything from the council?
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vargas. Congratulations on your promotion.
Thanks, sir.
Yes, congrats.
Congratulations from Ms. Councilman Anderson.
Same from Councilwoman Flagler.
All right. All right, thank you, sir. Now, back to work. All right, thank you so much, guys. Thanks, Captain. Okay, council, that was the last agenda item. What's your pleasure? Yeah, yes. That was.
make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
So moving properly second, they were adjourned. This meeting is officially over. And thank you all. And I got a couple of things I'll follow up with a couple of the council members, just to make sure we address all of your questions in detail. To include that the record situation, Jamie.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you all and have a good day.
Thank you, you too.
Mhm.